Hi there, I'm Rex King. Welcome back to another episode of From the Archive, and today we're talking about AI. So, AI was directed and written by Steven Spielberg. However, initially, this was going to be Stanley Kubrick's film. You see, Stanley Kubrick had actually worked on a script for this film and had been working on trying to push through a production of this film for quite a while before the initial production. However, he could never really get it off the ground, and the film just remained in production hell for a long time. This was mainly due to the fact that he felt like the effects weren't really there for the type of movie he wanted to do. However, that all changed with the release of Jurassic Park. All of a sudden, ILM had opened new doors with what you could do with digital effects and with mixing and practical effects. So Kubrick felt like it was finally time to get this film off the ground. However, he also felt like he wasn't the right man for the job. He honestly felt like Spielberg should be the person to direct this movie. Spielberg felt like Kubrick should be the one who directed this film. So Kubrick finally said, "Fine, I'll direct it after Eyes Wide Shut." Then he died. Yep. That left everything to Steven Spielberg to pick up the pieces and released his friend's work while also making sure his voice in the film was heard as well. The film was released on June 29th, 2001 on a budget of about $100 million, give or take, and the film made about $233.9 million at the box office. And honestly did pretty well with critics. It even went on to be nominated for 2 Oscars, one for visual effects and one for musical score. So, what do I think about artificial intelligence? Well, let's talk about it. So, AI takes place in a future where humanity has pretty much overpopulated the Earth. There's a system trying to dumb down the population by handing out licenses to people who can have kids. And basically, this leaves room for a mecha company, or robot company, run by William Hurt, to pretty much fill that void by making a robot child who can love a parent. However, the question still remains, will the parent love the child? For the test case, they decide to pick a couple played by Frances O'Connor and Sam Roberts, and give him the mecha kid David, played by Haley Joel Osment. And pretty much at first, they are very hesitant. In fact, the mother really doesn't want to embrace this kid. She still wants to hold out hope that her son, who's in cryosleep, will come out of cryosleep in return. But inevitably, she decides to, program David to love her for all eternity, despite the fact that this will mean that he will love her forever, and it can never be undone. This gets complicated because guess what? That kid that wasn't supposed to be revived from cryosleep gets revived from cryosleep and is magically cured. So now he is David's kind of sort of brother. He doesn't like David and thinks David was going to replace him, so he starts to get him into trouble. This causes the parents to decide to get rid of David. And the mother, not wanting to see him destroyed, leaves him in a forest, despite the fact that his love all button will see this as abandonment and will do anything he can to get back with her. This brings us to the next part of the story, David's journey, where he decides he's going to find the Blue Fairy, which he was told about through the story of Pinocchio, and he believes that the Blue Fairy, if she exists, can make him a real boy, and therefore his mother will love him, decides to go on a journey to find said Blue Fairy. Along the way, he is joined by Teddy, and another mecha, Gigolo Joe, played by Jude Law. And they pretty much accompany him on this journey. And then the last third happens. Now, I will warn you, I feel like I have to go to spoilers with this film because there is a lot to talk about in the last third of the movie, and if you are going to hear complaints about this film, it's going to be generally towards the last third of this film. So you've been warned. If you haven't seen this film and want to go into it completely blind, stop the video here, go watch the movie, and come back. For those of you who are still here, well, David finds a statue of the Blue Fairy underwater in Manhattan, takes the submersible airplane helicopter thingamabob that him and Gigolo Joe stole earlier in the movie, goes down to the bottom of the ocean, parks the thing right in front of the Blue Fairy and starts asking to be a real boy. However, a Ferris wheel collapses on top of a submersible helicopter thingamabob, and David basically stands there for 2,000 years. When advanced androids that look like aliens, and if you didn't know they were advanced androids, the movie does not tell you, come along, wake him up, basically take him to a facility which is, I guess, supposed to somehow be an exact simulation of his real home, projects the Blue Fairy in front of him somehow, and basically they ask him if there's anything they can do for him. They can't really make him a real person, so David asks to see his mother, but his mother's been dead for a while, and they can't bring her back unless they have a DNA sample. Luckily, Teddy has a piece of her hair that he received earlier in the movie, and they use that to bring back his mother for a single day, and they basically spend the day together, and before both drifting off into sleep for the rest of eternity. So, most people are divided on this ending. Some people actually do like it and think it's kind of intriguing. Some people find it sappy. Now, there were a lot of people who blamed Spielberg for the ending. In all truth and honesty, the ending was Kubrick's idea. So you really can't blame Spielberg for the ending. He's trying to stay faithful to his friend's script and ideas. That being said, that is not my problem with the film. My problem with the film is its tone whiplash. As it changes tones so many times in this film, you have a hard time really figuring out what you're supposed to feel at any given moment. Let's try to take this one step at a time by breaking down the story into really 3 chapters. Chapter 1 being with David and his family. Chapter 2, David's journey to Manhattan and subsequent finding of the statue of the Blue Fairy. And then Chapter 3, the one day with his mother thing. So, yeah, here's the thing. The first chapter starts off really awkward and you don't really know where it's going to go, as these parents don't really know what to make of David, and David doesn't really seem able to get them on his side until he laughs for some reason, and somehow that makes them press the love always button on his neck. I'm not quite sure why they do that. And it really is supposed to be a softer, more like wondrous kind of part of the film, but it's also supposed to be a little bit slower as we start to ask some philosophical questions that the film never answers, because it immediately goes into the second part of the film, which is definitely more focused on a journey and a character's arc. And then the third part of the film, it kind of drops all the philosophy and pretense that both the first part and second part do have, in favor of completing the character's arc. See what I'm getting at? The film doesn't really know what it wants to do. It really feels like it's a mixed match of different visions combined into one film. And that's probably because largely it was. You have Spielberg's ideas and you have Kubrick's ideas. It would be hard to really tell whose ideas would win out in the end. And you can tell that Spielberg wants to pay homage to his friend. But you also can tell that he wants to put his own spin on this. And as such, it really is a mixed bag of different tones in different styles. And that doesn't really work for me at times. Now, I do want to stress, I don't hate this movie. I felt it was decent. I really like the visual effects, and John Williams' score is always a welcome addition. Hell, the effects work are really brilliant if you start to really look at them. The multiple different types of practical and digital effects they had to use to make this film, it's quite interesting when you start to look into it. But the story is a mess, and so are the characters, and at the end of the day, that does damper the film. But I still think that the film has a couple good messages, and it does ask a question that we really need to start asking ourselves. What is our responsibility to artificial intelligence? I mean, nowadays we're doing so much more with artificial intelligence and are pushing the boundaries every day with it. So, shouldn't we be asking what our responsibilities are to this new form of intelligence that we are rapidly improving? What happens when the intelligence that we are creating starts to become more aware of itself? Do we shut it off, or do we feel like we're more responsible for it? We need to be aware of these questions, and I'm glad that AI brings these up, especially since this film's from 2001 and these questions are still relevant today. So, yeah, at the end of the day, this film is worth the watch. It is a mess, but it's a good mess for the most part. I know that sounds weird, but to be honest, you really need to check this movie out to really understand what I'm getting at. As for whether or not the film's a buy or stream, well, it's going to come down to what you're looking for. So the Blu-ray has a bunch of making-ofs, and it all focuses really on the special effects and what went into making the different special effects that went into this film. And if you really are interested in special effects work and want to see where the ideas came from or how they made a lot of this possible, it's definitely worth checking out. But if you just want to see the film, well, I would recommend streaming it. Because, honestly, the film itself is not worth the buy. It really comes down to what you want out of a Blu-ray DVD. Anyway, that's my opinion on artificial intelligence. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And next time, I'll be taking a look at Luca. See you then!